Wow, it is so good to be here. I have the last day right after lunch. Y'all stay awake, okay? Stay with me. Because I am so excited to talk about teens. For several years now, I've been talking to many of you and even up front about our teen curriculum and when is it coming. And I've had so much anticipation around the world and in my own heart and soul for this. So I just wanted to give you a brief update right now, today. But before we begin, I wanted to just show you a quick 2.4 or something minute video. It's a movie trailer for a film that's done by KPJR. I don't know if you know about KPJR Films, but they do a number of documentaries telling stories that really deal with children and teens issues. And they're the producer of Paper Tigers, Resilience, Big Picture, Dyslexia, Toxic Stress, and so on. This is a trailer for a video called Resilience. It's an unshamed plug for it. It's great, but I'm not paid by them to say this. But I wanted you to just see the information that is given to you in this video.
We all like to think of childhood as this time of joy and innocence. But, for many of us, it's just not true.
When you grow up in these type of situations, it's not something you talk about. I know I didn't.
The first thing that we found is that adverse childhood experiences are common.
Kids are young, they don't know what's going on, they won't remember anyway. Well, the child may not remember, but the body remembers.
There was this incredible gee whiz effect. You mean adverse childhood experiences cause heart disease and lung disease and liver and cancer?
Exposure to trauma affects children's developing brains. The impact is on your behavior, it's on your heart, it's on your DNA. Like, how do you deal with all that?
I don't reach out because I'm not used to that.
We have a whole new body of knowledge now that could open up what we have up till now been seen as intractable, unsolvable problems.
No child should be punched or kicked. No child should be punched or kicked.
If you can get the science into the hands of the general population, they will invent very wise actions.
Do you feel like any of the interventions have been making a difference?
They've made all the difference in the world.
It's there, it's possible, and a defeatist attitude is completely disconnected from what 21st century science is telling us. And we should be going after that like a bear.
Hurts. Life does hurt. And the children that are traumatized and the children that many of you have ministered to through our children's curriculum quickly grow into teens. And teens quickly grow into adults. And if the issues that they suffer with are never addressed, then the problems exacerbate. The earlier that we can get to them, and the long-term relationships that we can form with them that keep them on a healing journey is the key. We know that in this room. The beautiful gift that we have is that we have a remedy. We hold in our hands a remedy. That life hurts, but love heals. And the love that comes from our Father that heals is the one that we can bring to kids. I love teens. If you have ever raised a teen or live with a teen right now, will you stand up? Wow. Wow. These are experienced warriors. I want you to know. Thank you very much. Give them a hand. Because they are on the front lines right now. or they have been on the front lines and they show the scars of it. It is hard raising teens. I love teens, and I would dare say that most of you who stood up probably still love teens. I love teens because they ask questions. I love teens because they teach you. They hold up mirrors that are true. This is who you really are, Dad, that nobody else can do. I love teens because they challenge us. I love teens because they love to play. But they also love to take risk. They also need guidance. They need us. They need adults. 2015, I looked at everybody around me here at ABS, at our team, and I said, what do we have for teens? We've got adults covered. We got children's covered. But who dares to do anything for teens? Because it's really hard. Culture changes so fast. We've got to do something that is going to be above and beyond culture, that is really going to get to the issues. We've done our best, and I believe by the power of the Spirit that He has led us to create a curriculum, and I'm so grateful for it. We have worked really hard on it. It's been a long time coming. Those of you who have ever had a baby, it'd be nice if this would have been born in 9 months. Taken many years, 3 years, but we're grateful to say that I'm happy to tell you that 3 months ago in El Salvador, we did our first teen pilot training. We had 53 kids that we did with a 3-day teen retreat. It was beyond our expectations. But I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to hear from some of the people who were there. So Ugo, would you come and share?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time to speak in English. My English is very bad. No. My Spanish is worse. Okay, I have 3 daughters, teenagers, 23, 20, and 13. My wife and I went to El Salvador to take teens, trauma healing teens. It's a wonderful material to share with them, and we how can I say? We see all the needs or the wounds in their hearts. Somebody take them and healing them, and then God's give us opportunity to take them, and then we have trauma healing adults, kids, and now we complete with 3 and teens too. I say my wife, come with us and work. She's a volunteer. She and I, we work for 20 years ago for a teen. And then this is the material we're waiting for. And then God's give us. And then I'm glad to be here and share many experience to young people. Say thank you, my mentors. It's Dana, Margi, James, Marilyn, Rita, and say thank you. And that's it.
I think a lot of times people have a portrait in their minds of what a good teen worker looks like. And probably our first thing we do is we kind of look around a room like this and we're like, Whoever brings the average age down, that's who is probably good at working with teens. And I think we're totally missing out when we do that. A lot of times I see even in seminaries, it's always you finish seminary and the first thing you do is you go be a youth pastor because you're closest to their age, so you must understand them the most, and then you go on and do other roles in ministry. But I think that totally misses the point. What's really, really exciting about teenagers is they want the exact same thing that all of us do, which is a core of counseling. They want somebody to care about them, to love them, and to meet them where they are. And that's what we tried to do with this material, is we tried to say, what in the world can we do to really meet teens where they are? So we actually have the published versions in Spanish, which is really exciting. There's 2 different things. Yeah, clap for that. There's 2 different things that go with it. There's a facilitator's guide that is to guide the adults through the material, but what we're really excited about is this teen journal that is full of exercises and activities. It's got the story, it's got opportunities to journal, to draw, and it's something that they get to keep and take with them and be a part of the process. Before we get into our activity, I wanted to do something that we a lot of times do with teens and do a little bit of a warm-up because I know it's right after lunch. So everyone, just to make sure you know how to do it, can you clap once for me? All right, can you clap twice? Nice. Now that you're paying attention, what I want you to do is watch. Whenever my hands pass, I want you to clap. Nobody clapped. Let's try that. Whenever my hands pass, I want you to clap. There we go. Let's try that again. Okay, here we go. You're working at it. You know, the teens really get this, so. Okay, very good. We're going to do some activities that are actually from the teen material, which is really exciting. And what we've done is we've picked out some different types of activities there are. So there's going to be an art activity, there's going to be something that is from one of the lessons, and all of the material is written to the youth. So as a facilitator gets the guide, all they have to do is look at it. They don't have to absorb the information and then spit it back out in a different way. It's written in a way that you can just grab it and use it, which is what you're going to do in just a minute. If I can have one person at every table pick up the number holder at your table. So one person at every table pick up the number holder. All right? Now you get to be the facilitator. No passing it. No passing. You get to be the facilitator. What's great about this is all you have to do is read through the material to your group. For those of you that maybe English isn't your first language, there's actually 3 different instruction sheets at each table so that you can read and follow along if you want. Now here's what's really fun. The rest of you get to pretend to be teenagers. So I want you to close your eyes. I want you to remember what it's like to feel like everyone in the room is looking at you. I want you to remember what it's like to know everything. And remember what it's like to only shower on Saturdays, whether you need it or not. Perfect. You are now ready to be teenagers. So at tables 1 through 5, you're going to be working on the downstairs brain. And I'm going to do a little overview of the different lessons in the teen material because we were thinking, you know what teenagers really do more than anything else? Does anybody have a guess? What do teenagers do more than anything else? Sleep, probably. What else do they do? On their phones. They are asking questions. If they're on their phones, it's because they're on Google asking a question. So all of our lessons are answering questions. So lesson 1, session 1, am I important to anyone? Session 2, if God loves me, why do I hurt so much? Session 3, how do I connect with my feelings? 4, how do I deal with my pain? 5, how do I deal with my loss? 6, what about my personal boundaries? In El Salvador, some of the teens told us that they had never before even had the idea that they could tell somebody no. Boundaries was a completely foreign concept. 7, how can I tell my story? 8, where can I take my pain? 9, how can I forgive? And 10, how do I move forward? So tables 1 through 5, you're going to be working on an exercise called the downstairs brain. So you facilitators are going to pick the piece of paper from the center of your table, and you're just going to read through that and do the discussion with the teens at your table. tables 6 through 10, you have an exercise on shame. As you read through that, there's actually on tables 6 through 10, you will be reading through the material and notice that there's actually handouts for everyone on tables 6 through 10 on shame, and you're going to try to do that exercise. All right, tables 11 through 15, you are going to do one on masks we wear, talking about anger and the other things we do to hide from what our true feelings are. Tables 16 through 19, you're going to do an exercise on I am. So it's a very short paragraph, and then you get to do an art activity. So use the pens and the markers on your table. There's a piece of paper for everyone on tables 16 through 19 in which you can do to draw and do the activity. I'll give you kind of a heads up when you have maybe 3 minutes left to go ahead and finish what you're working on, finish the discussion or the activity, and we'll get feedback, one from each of these groups, to find out what you thought about the material. We're back together. We're going to get a little bit of feedback, but because of time, I just want to hear from one table in each of the sections. A couple things to remember is that you have just a tiny piece, and normally you would have more time to do these different activities. And also, yes, you can read it, but our hope is that a good facilitator is going to gather and absorb this information and be able to lead a discussion and pause after reading a section and asking questions and getting the teens to engage in the process, just like you would with the adult and the children's material. So if I can have one table, 1 through 5, share about the information, the exercise, the downstairs brain. What was it like? What did you think? So tables 1 through 5, if one table could share, that would be great. If you could just share about the experience. There we go.
There's a little bit, while I think this is great, and I love the brain stuff, I wonder, there's 4 parts, right? The upstairs, downstairs, midbrain, and watchdog. And I wondered if there was a time when there was a clearer connection between the 4 and like how, I don't know, I'm sure further in the curriculum this is figured out or talked about because I assume that's true. But it was really, I liked the imagery a lot and the upstairs, downstairs, and giving examples of where you land in all of that was really brilliant.
All right, thank you. Tables 6 through 10, exercise on shame. You probably didn't have time to finish the journal activity. The cool part about the journal activity is that you try to give them a lot of time to take their journal and to work through it. And a lot of times they could be invited to share, but they certainly don't have to share what their experiences with their journal was. But would one of the tables 6 through 10 like to share? Here we go, a hand raised. Who else? Go ahead.
Yeah, ours is guilt and shame. We found that this is a good material. We enjoyed the exercise, though somehow is confusing to difference shame and guilty. So yeah, but it's very good, helpful.
Awesome. Guilt is always, I've made a mistake, and shame is that negative feeling on the inside of I'm a bad person because of it. Yeah, go ahead.
But even for us as adults, the topics aren't, it doesn't mean that we're adults, the topics are easy. So with a little time, we couldn't even get close to the journaling. We're still like trying to process guilt and shame.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a 30-minute section.
More knowledgeable than they are.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, tables 11 through 15, if somebody would like to share on the mask that we wear.
It was a fun experience for us, but we felt like it was a bit too long of a read. So we had to, in the middle of it, we had to do something to engage the teenagers. So either let them read or ask a question or something just to get them to engage more. Otherwise, I would have ended up losing their focus.
Great. That sounds like good facilitating, stopping in the middle and mixing it up. Let's have Ernie in the back, and then we'll move on to tables 16 through 19.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. One question that we had is, where does this exercise come in the whole program? Because we said that every teenager that comes to the group will wear a mask. So, and I was explaining a little bit when we did a trial in Guyana. The first 2 days, everybody wears a mask. And it's after the third and the fourth day that they will open up. And when they open up so wide and they share so much that they don't want to end the whole program. At the end of the program, they don't want to leave. So the question is, where does this part of mask come into the whole program?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's at the end of lesson 3, which is about feelings. So it's kind of helping to understand that we have a lot of feelings underneath sometimes, and we might have a mask as the jock or the jokester or a mask of anger. All right, what about tables 16 through 19? Who would like to share about your exercise? Right here.
Thank you. I think it went well for us. We enjoyed the exercise. It's a clear instruction. It's brief and it's clear, especially because you are given options. It's either you use your emotions, you show your personality traits, or you are as creative as ever. And the good part was the example, because if you're supposed to talk about yourself, most of the time it's not easy. But then the example then gave light. One way or the other, a child will be able to start saying something about himself or herself.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, let's have one more in the back, and then we'll move on.
Creo que es complicado calificarse a uno mismo. Y un adolescente.
I think it's hard to describe yourself. And for a teenager.
Y un adolescente generalmente está dispuesto para calificarse.
And a teenager is always willing to qualify himself or describe himself.
Aquí en el grupo los adolescentes se calificaron como eran.
Here in this group, the adolescents described themselves as they are.
Muy emocionante.
It was very exciting and emotional.
Porque en esta edad el adolescente es muy bueno.
Because at that age, adolescents are very good.
Si ve problema en su casa, él dice, yo cuando sea grande o cuando trabaje, voy a ayudarte mamá o papá. Generalmente esa es la expresión de él.
Many of them say in their homes, when I grow up, I'm going to help my mother, my father.
Y si nos recordamos nosotros,
and if we remember,
los que alguna vez tuvieron experiencia con el Señor personal,
those who had a personal relationship with God,
generalmente lo hacemos entre 12, 13, 14 a 15 años.
We do that between 12, 13, 14, 15 years old.
Es el tiempo de las decisiones.
That's the time when we make decisions.
Y es bueno lo que hemos hecho ahora para descubrir quién eres.
And this is a very good exercise to discover who we are.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's important that we don't sell the ability of our teenagers short. They are incredibly capable to understand, to do, and to process. And let's remember that many traumatized adults were once traumatized teens, and that's why we're doing this. I want to invite up someone to tell us more about her experience with our training program in El Salvador. So Gabriela Palmo de Ramirez is coming up to share. She is the coordinator for trauma healing with El Salvador.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriela. I'm from El Salvador, and I want to share a little bit about this program. In December 2018, our country received a gift, an opportunity, and it's this material. My first thought when I received the material was, oh, how I wish to have this material when I was a teenager. Because you have a lot of to say, but nobody's listening. The second thought I have was my teenagers in Bible school. They are children of gangs, and they have a lot of in their hearts, but nobody's listening. I can say a lot of things about this material, but 2 minutes is not enough. What can I say is that this material will heal a lot of hearts of teenagers. The structure of the material is great. My favorite part is the diary, because even the teenagers don't say much, they think too much. And when they have the opportunity to write, to make art, or an opportunity to express, they will do. In our country, in this training, we have teenagers from a very violent place and a very poor place, and they came to the church to the exercise with the, how do you say this? With the persons, the trainers, the, what's the word? Yeah, I forgot the word. Thank you. And at the beginning, they don't want to talk too much because the facilitators was old people. I mean, but the old people transform in teenagers too with them. And the diary allowed them to express what they have in their hearts. And it was amazing to see sad faces transform in happiness. I pray that this material called your attention, because sometimes we just think in adults and, oh, how they suffer, and adults suffer. And then we thought in kids, and it's too easy to have a compassion for a kid, but nobody is interested in teenagers. They are like aliens or something like that. But they need somebody to listen. They need somebody to care about. Because if we heal a teenager, we don't even need an adult program. So I pray that this material go inside your heart, in your minds, and think twice if you don't want to take it. I think everybody needs to take it. Because our teenagers are battling wars that you and me, we don't fight in our times. They have cell phones, but they don't communicate. They have a lot of things that we don't have. But we have one thing they want, and it's attention. So I want to congratulate you two guys, because every single page in that material was thinking to heal, to help, to open doors that had been closed for enough time. Our teenagers need us, no matter what they said. They maybe don't understand, but we need them and they need us. And this material come together all along. So I pray in El Salvador we can use this material and take it for all over the world. And I know we can make a change. Have a nice day.
Amazing. Okay, this time is going by so fast. I need 3 more hours, Phil. What I'd like to do now is have you talk around your tables and answer some questions. Because I think we need to personalize this to your community, to your ministry, to your area, to your region, to your calling and mission. So here are the questions. What is being done now in your community to engage teens in the church? Secondly, how could you connect to what's already happening to bring healing to traumatized teens? And the third one is, what are the barriers and challenges for you for getting started with this? Okay? So just talk amongst yourselves, and then we will debrief, and I want to hear from a lot of you what the conversations happen. Okay? Thank you. Okay, let's think about the first question. Let's think about the first question. The first question is, what is being done now in your community to engage teens in the church? Can I just hear from a few of you some of the more effective programs that you have, ministries that you have in your community that really meets the needs of teens and gets them involved and active? I'll take 3 answers because we're really behind time. Who would like to share? Here's one.
I live in a missionary community, and there are a lot of MKs there. There are a lot that are sort of stable there instead of coming in and out a lot. And there has been a pilot program of this very teen program. There's been a pilot this past year, and it was extremely well received. And I last week got a testimonial from a parent who said his children came back from the field quite traumatized and unable to fit into the American teen scene, and that this was just an answer to prayer, and that they would not miss time of going to.
Thank you. That's encouraging to me. How about somebody, is there anybody here who works in an urban setting that you know of, some urban ministry that is effective with teens? Yes, go ahead.
I'm trying to talk less, but it's hard. I have a lot to say. So in North Philadelphia, there is a community center that has after-school programs all the time. I feel like after-school programs, there are tons of ways that are already happening. We talk about doing things that they're already happening, not reading. So thinking about after-school programs, places where teens hang out, approved settings. We talked about youth groups, that those are urban contexts, those are non-urban contexts, suburban contexts, but I think those are
fantastic.
Start looking.
Going to where kids already are. One more. Like to tell me about some, there's one.
We brought up Young Life at our table, just that they can cross boundaries of suburban and urban teens and just, have them already there in small group settings.
So when there are effective programs, whether it's outside of the church or we take the church to the community, or we have teens that come into the church and there's some effective ministry, what do you see? How do you see that you could connect what's already happening to help traumatized kids? Cammie?
In CAR, the Boy Scouts is actually meets in churches. It's an organization that churches and the Boy Scouts have been instrumental in CAR to help prevent to be as a peacemaking group. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, as Todd mentioned when I was saying this, young people who are part of the Boy Scouts are less likely to become child soldiers. And I could see this program being used in churches with the Boy Scouts.
That's a great idea. Boys Brigade? Yeah, very good. What else? Father Claude? Oh, you're next. Father Claude. Yes, please, back there.
En la ciudad de Phoenix hay programas dedicados para niños.
In the city of Phoenix, there's programs dedicated for adolescents.
Las iglesias tienen programas. El Estado tiene academias para niños que tienen mal comportamiento en conducta.
The state has schools for children that struggle with their behavior.
Y tenemos 2 veces al año congreso de jóvenes para analizar diferentes temas.
And twice a year, we have different conferences where we discuss different subjects and situations.
Mm-hmm. Very good, thank you. Father Claude.
In the Roman Catholic Church, I understand till about 15, 16, we get them for catechism classes. And after that, we have the confirmation as well. After confirmation classes, till they get married, we don't have a program as such. Yeah, so it's a good program. And also we have in the meantime Jesus Youth. Also in some countries we have YCS, Young Christian Students, but in between we don't have a program.
Yeah, thank you, Father Claude.
Also, we don't have this program yet, unfortunately, but soon coming, hopefully. We're praying for this program already to come to Ukraine. But what we have already started, and I think when we will have the program, we will definitely bring it to what we're planning already in this March. We have a lot Christian, I would say, not Christian schools, but seminaries, theological seminaries. And a lot of those where people are prepared to be youth leaders. So basically, we would like to have this kind of program to as many of our seminaries, so they prepare young people no matter where they go. They will go back to churches, to their homes and other cities and work with teens anyway. And there definitely will be traumatized teens. So we don't have this program yet, but we're already starting this process. Hopefully, we'll get the program soon.
Very good. Yes, in the same way that we're now working with Adult Classic and getting that more exposure in seminaries, Bible schools, and so on. Great. One more.
This program still is not applied to my Bible Society yet. I don't know when, but I want to bring one point to pay attention to that, to the immigrant teens. Please think about that, because normally teens, they have their own problem. But the immigrant teens, either they born in the second country or raised in the second country, but they are living in one culture in home, another culture in school or church. So they have two cultures. They are in between what they have to do. Sometimes these two cultures, they are not agree to each other too. So they have more problem. Please pay attention to that.
Thank you for mentioning that. I have talked to many teens in the Middle East and other places where there are immigrants and refugees and displaced people. And the teens are the ones that are really suffering. Everybody's suffering. But the teens, because they have been taken away from their family, from their home, from their sports, from their school, from their context, they're bored, they're not in school, they're angry. They are just ripe for the picking for any predator or anybody who would want to recruit them for nefarious reasons. And it is critical that we get to the teens. Thank you. Okay, the last question is, what are the barriers? What are the barriers that you see, the barriers and challenges that you would face to getting started with this? And I know, first of all, you're going to say, getting the materials. Let me just answer that one. I already know that one. Everybody wants and needs the materials, and we are working on that just as fast as we can. It's a snail's pace, but we are working hard on that. But other barriers that you see, cultural barriers, church barriers, family barriers, and so on.
I work in Latin America, and I just asked, or Central America, I just asked Gabriela about this right here.
Oh, there you are.
It's very uncultural to talk about your emotion. Very uncultural. And it's a huge barrier for getting to start a lot of this work. And I just asked Gabriela about that, and she said, well, the teens, they're not there yet, and they want to talk. That's something that as an adult, that's very true, and it's going to be a lot more mountains to climb. But in the teen time, they haven't learned to completely shut off yet, and they're so hungry for it that it's the perfect.
That's right, because at teen time, as we all know, that peers become very, very important, peer relationships, and with all the social media that we have and the connections that they have, they are quite used to talking to each other and experiencing Thank you. Other barriers that you can think of that we can maybe address?
Voy a hablar por Bolivia. Creo que tenemos que entrenar personas que quieran trabajar con adolescentes.
I'm going to speak for Bolivia. I think we need to train people that really want to work with teenagers.
Porque el mayor conflicto es que los adolescentes no quieren ser adolescentes, quieren llegar a ser jóvenes ya. Ser niños tampoco.
Because one of the biggest difficulties is that teenagers, they don't want to be teenagers. They want to be grown. Right. And they don't want to be kids either.
Y creo que un material que toca estos temas, sinceramente, no solo va a ser un beneficio, sino creo que va a ser una dinamita que va a ser de bendición para los ministerios que quieran utilizar, porque hay preguntas que ellos se hacen todos los días.
And I think that this program will be, if we cover these topics, I think this program, for those of us that want to use it, is going to be like dynamite of blessings. And if those of you that want to use it.
Thank you for mentioning that, because we have to have people who love teens to do this. As you think about doing and developing this program, and you think about identifying the people that will use this program, please, people only that know teens, love teens, have experience talking to them, welcome them, are not afraid of them, are not afraid of being exposed themselves to their own stuff. It is a specialty. And the thing is about teens, if you're not there yet, they will cut you off immediately. They're like, and then you'll have a hard time getting to them. So really the authenticity part of loving them is really important. Yes, one more. Marco.
Yeah, for me, I think that one of the challenges of that is because, what do you say, the churches, if we are talking about the churches, we need to have a effective youth or teen ministry. In the other way, this will be a barrier, no? Because if the church can reach their own teenagers in a way of nourish their faith and their Christian life, to help in healing or in implementing this kind of program, I think that'd be ineffective also, because I think that we need to be more intentional in that. The challenge, I think that this the teen ministry and the youth ministry in some cases is a pending task in the church, and it's interesting because we are analyzing from our adult comfort zone,
right.
But we need to ask the teenagers what they are wanted about it, and to raise the awareness of that, because it's a concern, of course, and it's an urgent task also that we need to face and to address in the best way that God guide us.
Thank you, Marco. I wish we could continue this conversation, but we really do have to move on. Did you have one thing you wanted to say? I want to hear from Harriet. No?
I just know I had a student, I had him do the listening exercise. It was an online trauma healing kind of course. And they had to do the listening exercise with somebody, and the only person they could find was their teenage son. And it changed the relationship, because teens are not being asked what happened, how do you feel, what was the hardest part. And if we can just listen, not only within this curriculum, but as a church, I think a lot of healing will happen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, we have one more person to hear from. I want to introduce Sharon Bermudez. She is the Trauma Healing Coordinator for Bible Society Ecuador, a good friend of mine, a brilliant lady. I've seen her in action, a great trainer. We love her.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Esta mañana hablábamos del lamento.
This morning we were talking about laments.
En eventos como estos, lamento no saber inglés.
And I really lament that I don't speak
poder
English.
Interactuar y conocerles mejor a
So that I
ustedes.
could interact with you and get to know you better.
Pero a pesar de la barrera del idioma, quiero que sepa
But in spite of the language barrier, I want you to know
que sus testimonios y conocimientos han bendecido y desafiado mi vida.
that your testimonies and your lessons have been a blessing and a challenge for me.
Margie dijo, trabajo como coordinadora en sociedades bíblicas del programa Sanando las Heridas.
I work as a coordinator in the program of healing the wounds of the heart.
He sido capacitada en adultos y niños.
I've been trained for adults and for children.
Y tuve el privilegio de ser invitada a El Salvador a participar en la capacitación de adolescentes.
And I had the privilege of being invited to El Salvador to participate in the training for adolescents.
Puedo decir que han combinado lo mejor de los dos programas.
I can say that you have combined the best of both programs,
Las mejores actividades
the best activities,
y han añadido información valiosa para los adolescentes.
and you've added very valuable information for the teenagers.
Felicitaciones a Margie, a James y a todo el equipo
Congratulations to Maggie, to James, and to the team
por tomarse el tiempo para hacer este tan buen material para una etapa tan difícil como es la adolescencia.
for taking the time to create such a great material for a phase of life that is as challenging as being an adolescent.
En El Salvador tuve que trabajar con 8 chicas, las más grandes del grupo.
In El Salvador, I worked with 8 young women, the oldest in the group.
Al principio estaban enojadas
In the beginning, they were angry,
y me dijeron que se sentían obligadas por el pastor a estar ahí.
and they told me that they were obligated by the pastor to be there.
Pero a través de los días
But throughout the days,
vi cómo el Señor actuó en sus vidas a través del material.
and I saw how God worked in their lives through this material.
Cada día regresaron más contentas,
Every day they came back happier,
animadas,
more excited.
aprendieron a hablar de sus heridas,
They learned how to talk about their wounds.
aprendieron a saber que tenían que poner límites y barreras en sus vidas.
They learned that they had to put barriers and limits in their lives.
Aprendieron a saber reaccionar bien ante detonantes en su vida.
And they learned how to react in a good way for the triggers in their lives.
Y les recordamos que la cruz del Señor está cercana siempre.
And we reminded them that the cross is close to them always.
Así que les animo a todos
So I encourage all of you
a empoderarse de este programa, a llevarlo a sus iglesias y ministerios.
to take this program to your churches and to your ministries.
Será de bendición para ellos.
It will be a blessing for them.
Gracias.
Thank you.
There was a couple things that came out of El Salvador that are really exciting. One of them was we had about 15 of the older teenagers who came to us and said, we want to be a part of this. We want to do this with our friends. We want to do this with the other teens in our church. How can we get the training and be a part of it? Which is awesome. That's what we hope happens, is that some of the older teens will actually take ownership and be able to use this material and to become healing group facilitators themselves. And that's something we're really excited about. I had a conversation with some of the groups of boys at the event in El Salvador, and I was talking about creating the material, and I told them that I helped write the story, and they all wanted to know, how in the world did I know their story? They asked if I had lived in El Salvador. Now, the story is actually inner city U.S. It's about a family that goes through trauma and gang violence and drugs, and it was the exact same story that they were experiencing in El Salvador, and they were just so amazed that I knew what their story was. Because what we find is what teenagers all over the world are experiencing oftentimes has many things in common. So it's great that we're able to meet them where they're at. Another thing that is a part of the forgiveness lesson is a labyrinth. So we make this huge labyrinth of tape on the floor. I've seen it done on YouTube in 3 minutes. I don't understand how that's possible. But we're able to watch teenagers spend 45 minutes walking slowly through this labyrinth of forgiveness, being able to take the things that they've been holding on to for an incredibly long time and leave them at the foot of the cross. So lots of fun activities in the teen material. We look forward to keeping you updated on what's happening. Thanks so much for being a part today. You got a tiny, tiny little taste of everything that's going to be available soon. Thanks.